The diplomatic chamber was quiet as the holographic screen flickered to life. Ambassador Claire Morrison stood straight, watching the alien ship appear on the display. It was damaged badly, with holes in its side and smoke coming from its engines. The ship belonged to the Veltharian people, a proud alien race that humanity had met 30 years ago. The alien who appeared on screen looked terrible. His name was Korath, and he was an ambassador like Claire. His shell was cracked, one of his 6 eyes was dark, and his voice shook when he spoke through the translation device. Humanity, we come to you not as friends or partners, but as people who have nowhere else to go, Korath said slowly. His pride was breaking with every word. The Drask swarm has destroyed 17 star systems in 40 days. They do not talk. They do not stop. They just eat everything they find. Captain Nathan Cross stood in the Earth Defense Station looking at his officer Kelly Hayes. They had heard stories about the Drask before. These were ancient monsters from the edge of the galaxy. But Earth was new to space, too young to worry about threats that hurt the older civilizations. Our fleets are destroyed, Korath continued, his voice breaking. The Xanthir Empire has fallen. The Confederation has run away to hide behind their fortress worlds. We, the Veltharian Assembly, are the last wall between the swarm and the inner worlds. And we are losing. Claire stepped forward with her hands behind her back. Ambassador Korath, with respect, humanity has only been in space for 30 years. Why do you think we can fight something that has destroyed civilizations much older than us? The alien's eyes focused on her with a look that made several humans feel uncomfortable. Because of the stories, Ambassador Morrison. The legends that people whisper in the dark corners of space. Tales of a human fleet that does not officially exist. Ships that appear when all hope is lost, with warriors who do not fear death. Nathan felt his blood turn cold. He knew exactly what Korath was talking about, but he had never spoken about it out loud, not even to his closest friends. The Ghost Fleet, Korath whispered. We need you to call the Ghost Fleet. The room erupted with voices. Most of the human delegation looked confused, but a few people with high security clearance turned pale. Claire's jaw tightened slightly. Ambassador Korath, she said carefully, I am not sure what rumors you have heard, but do not lie to us, Korath interrupted, showing some of his old pride. We know humanity keeps secrets. We know that for such a young species you have technology that should not exist. We know there are human ships that have been seen in forbidden zones. Ships that disappear before they can be scanned. Ships painted in dark colors and crewed by those the galaxy thinks are dead. Claire stayed silent for a long moment. Finally she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. What you are asking for, if such a thing existed, would come at a price you might not want to pay. Our worlds are burning, Korath replied. Our children are being eaten. There is no price too high. Then we will take your request to the right people, Claire said. But understand this, Ambassador. If humanity answers your call, if we summon what you are asking for, the galaxy will see a side of us that we have worked hard to keep hidden. Some things, once released, cannot be easily controlled. As the transmission ended, Nathan turned to Kelly. Send a priority message to Cheyenne Mountain. Use Protocol Phantom 7. Tell them the gate needs to be opened. Kelly's hands shook slightly as she typed the codes. Sir, are you sure? Once we do this, I know, Nathan said quietly. But they are right. If the Drask are not stopped, they will not spare Earth just because we are new. Better to fight them out there than wait for them to reach our home. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a place that appeared on no official maps, alarms began to ring. Men and women in unmarked uniforms rushed to their stations. At the center of the command room, Admiral Victoria Kane stood before a massive sealed door. Her face showed no emotion. Confirm the order, she said. Her second officer, Commander Lucas Grant, checked the codes. Confirmed, Admiral. Protocol Phantom 7 is active. We have permission to wake the fleet. Victoria allowed herself a small, dark smile. Then let us remind the galaxy why humanity does not need to be ancient to be feared. Open the vaults. Wake the dead. It is time for the ghosts to fly again. The facility was called Site Erebus, built in secret 20 years ago. It was carved into an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, where no civilian ship ever went. The fleet that slept there was humanity's darkest secret. 47 ships that should not exist, crewed by men and women who were officially dead. These were volunteers who had given up everything. They had said goodbye to their families, their friends, their entire lives. They had let the world think they were killed in action. In return, they became the weapon that humanity would only use when facing the end of everything. The Ghost Fleet was made up of the best soldiers, pilots, and engineers that Earth had ever produced. People who understood that sometimes protecting humanity meant becoming monsters. People who were willing to die twice, once to the world they loved and once more in battle against threats too terrible for normal forces to handle. Admiral Victoria Kane had created this fleet herself. She had recruited every single member personally, looking into their eyes and asking them if they were ready to become ghosts. Every person had said yes, not because they wanted glory or fame, but because they understood what was at stake. The ships of the Ghost Fleet were painted black and gray, colors that seemed to swallow light. They used technology that was too dangerous for regular military use. Weapons that bent space and time, engines that could tear holes in reality, artificial intelligence that was almost alive. These ships were designed for one purpose only: to win battles that could not be won any other way. As the alarms rang through Site Erebus, as the massive doors began to open for the first time in years, Victoria stood watching. She thought about all the people who had sacrificed everything to be here. She thought about the battles they had already fought in secret, the threats they had stopped that the galaxy never knew about, and now they would fight again, against the Drask swarm, against an enemy that had crushed empires and destroyed worlds. The Ghost Fleet would rise from the shadows and remind the universe why humanity, despite being young and small, was not to be underestimated. "Let them come," Victoria whispered to herself. "Let the Drask think they have won. They are about to learn that the most dangerous humans are the ones you think are already dead." Commander Lucas Grant stood in the observation deck, watching as massive hangar doors slid open for the first time in 10 years. The darkness beyond seemed endless. He could feel his heart beating faster as he waited for what was coming. "Status report." Admiral Victoria Kane's voice came through his earpiece. "Hangar bays 1 through 12 are open, Admiral. Life support systems are working. The crew transports are coming." Lucas checked his tablet, looking at names he had memorized but never thought he would see activated. "We are expecting the first group within the hour." "And the ships?" "Stasis fields are shutting down now. Engineering teams say all systems are changing from storage mode to operational status." He paused. "Admiral, are we really doing this? Are we really bringing them back?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of decisions made long ago. "The Ghost Fleet was created for exactly this situation, Lucas. A threat so big that normal forces would not be enough. The Drask swarm is that threat. But these people, they volunteered for what was supposed to be a one-way mission. They said goodbye to everything they knew. And they knew that when they signed up," Victoria replied. Every member of the Ghost Fleet understood the deal. They would be erased from official records, declared killed in action and held in reserve until humanity faced extinction. In exchange, they would become legends, myths, the monsters we keep hidden to scare away bigger monsters. Lucas watched as the first transport ship arrived. Through the window, he could see figures getting off the ship, men and women moving with the discipline of trained soldiers, but with an edge that regular military people did not have. These were volunteers who had chosen to die to the world, to give up everything for a cause they might never see completed. Lieutenant Emma Cole was the first to step into the observation deck. She was younger than Lucas expected, maybe 30 years old, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to look through him rather than at him. Her uniform was black with no rank badges or name tags. "Commander Grant?" she asked. "Lieutenant Cole, welcome back to the living." A small smile crossed her face. "I am not sure living is the right word." "Where is my ship?" "Hangar 7. The Revenant is ready and waiting for you." "Good," Emma said simply. Over the next 6 hours, Site Erebus came alive with activity. Men and women arrived in waves, each one officially dead according to every database in human space. Some had been in stasis for 10 years, others for less than a year. They came from all branches of Earth's military, but also from places that did not officially exist. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Foster walked through the hangar bay, looking at his ship. The Phantom was a destroyer-class vessel that should not exist according to known human technology. The ship's hull was made of smart matter that could change its shape during flight. Its weapons used theories that normal scientists said were impossible. "She is beautiful," Ryan said quietly as he walked along his ship. "I had almost forgotten." Beside him, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sophie Martin, touched the hull. "I dreamed about her every night in stasis. Nightmares, mostly. Dreams where we were flying her in combat, where the warning systems were screaming. Where we were alive, Ryan finished. That is the curse of the Ghost Fleet, Sophie. We are dead to the world, but in combat, we are more alive than we ever were before. In the command center, Admiral Victoria Kane watched the fleet come online through dozens of holographic displays. 47 ships in total, each one a masterpiece of human engineering pushed beyond normal limits. They were fast, heavily armed, and equipped with technology that had been considered too dangerous for regular forces. The Wraith-class fighters could create localized gravity problems, basically turning space-time itself into a weapon. The Banshee-class frigates had artificial intelligence systems that were almost truly conscious, able to predict enemy movements with scary accuracy. And then there was the flagship, the Harbinger, a huge ship that mounted humanity's first successful zero-point energy weapon. All ships report ready status, Lucas announced. Crew numbers are at 97%. We are only missing a few specialists who did not survive stasis. Victoria nodded grimly. Stasis was not perfect. For every 100 people who went under, 2 or 3 did not wake up. It was another price the Ghost Fleet paid. Open a fleet-wide channel, she ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Victoria took a breath, looking out at the assembled ships through the observation windows. This is Admiral Victoria Kane to all Ghost Fleet personnel. You have been awakened because the galaxy faces a threat that normal forces cannot stop. The Drask swarm is real and it is coming. When you volunteered for this program, you agreed to become humanity's final weapon, the force we use when all other options have failed. She paused, letting her words sink in. That time has come. In 72 hours, we will leave Site Erebus and meet with the Veltharian defensive line. We will be entering combat against an enemy that has destroyed civilizations older and more powerful than our own. The odds are not in our favor. Many of you may truly die in this fight, not just symbolically. But here is what the Drask do not know, Victoria continued, her voice becoming harder. They do not know that humanity's greatest warriors are not our generals or our admirals. They are the ones who were willing to sacrifice everything, including their own identities, for the chance to make a difference. They are the dead who refuse to stay buried. They are you. She looked directly into the camera. To the galaxy, you are myths. To the Drask, you are about to become nightmares. Ghost Fleet, prepare for departure. We have a swarm to stop. As the channel closed, Emma Cole sat in the cockpit of the Revenant, running through pre-flight checks. Beside her seat was a small photograph, carefully kept, showing her with a family she could never see again. She touched it once gently, then put it away in a compartment. Ghost 1 to all riders, she sent out. Remember what we left behind. Remember why we are here. And when we fight the Drask, make sure they remember us too, even if no one else ever will. Across the fleet, 47 ships powered up their engines. Their hulls were painted in blacks and grays that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were humanity's dark secret, its hidden blade, the price it had paid in advance for survival. Lieutenant Ryan Foster sat in his command chair on the Phantom, looking at his crew. They were all volunteers like him, all people who had chosen this path knowing they would never be thanked, never be remembered by anyone except each other. Ready? He asked Sophie. She checked her systems one more time. Ready, sir. Let us show the galaxy what Ghost can do. Admiral Victoria Kane stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching as the fleet formed up around her flagship. 47 ships. Just 47 against a threat that had consumed star systems. It seemed impossible, but that was the point of the Ghost Fleet. They did the impossible. They went where others could not go and fought battles that could not be won. And they did it all in secret, in the shadows where legends were born. All ships report ready for departure, Lucas said. Victoria nodded. Take us out, Commander. It is time for the Ghost to fly. The Ghost Fleet left Site Erebus in silence, their black ships disappearing into the darkness of space. No fanfare, no celebrations, just warriors heading to war, knowing that win or lose, the galaxy would never know their names. The Veltharian defensive line was falling apart. Admiral Korath watched from the bridge of his flagship, the Resolute Dawn, as another ship exploded in bright plasma fire. The Drask swarm ships were unlike anything in normal warfare. They were living vessels that moved like hunters, working together with a shared intelligence that made usual tactics useless. Sir, the left side is breaking, his tactical officer reported. We have lost the Valiant Shield and the Morning Star. The Drask are pushing through toward the civilian escape routes. Korath felt the weight of failure on his shoulders. 3 billion Veltharians were escaping from the colony world below, and his fleet was the only thing standing between them and death. Send all available ships to contact, the sensor officer shouted. Multiple jump signals bearing 273 Mark V. Sir, someone just came out of hyperspace directly into the combat zone. Identify them. Are they Confederation reinforcements? The sensor officer's hands moved quickly across his console, then stopped. Sir, the signals do not match any known vessel type. They are not Confederation. They are not any species I recognize. 47 ships, different types, all reading active weapon systems. They are sending a message. Put it through. The view screen changed and a human woman appeared. She wore a black uniform without badges, and her eyes held the calm certainty of someone who had already made peace with death. Korath recognized her from intelligence reports. Admiral Victoria Kane, officially listed as killed in action 5 years ago. This is Admiral Victoria Kane of the Terran Ghost Fleet to all Allied forces. We are taking command of this battle. All Veltharian vessels are to fall back to defensive positions around the escape corridors. We will handle the Drask. Admiral Kane, Korath sent back, we were told you were dead. I was. I got better. Victoria's face did not change. Now pull your ships back, Admiral. You are about to see why humanity kept us secret. The Ghost Fleet moved with a precision that shocked the Veltharian observers. The ships did not follow standard formation patterns. Instead, they flowed through space like a school of hunting fish, each vessel knowing what the others would do almost before they did it. Lieutenant Emma Cole pushed the Revenant into a dive that would have torn apart a normal fighter. Her ship responded instantly, the Smart Matter hull changing shape to reduce drag. Around her, 15 other Wraith-class fighters followed, forming a spearhead aimed directly at the thickest group of Drask vessels. Ghost Leader to all riders, she sent out. Remember, these things coordinate through bioelectromagnetic signals. That means they think they are fighting as one creature. Let us show them what individuals can do. Break on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. The fighter formation shattered, each pilot choosing their own attack path. To the Drask shared intelligence used to fighting opponents who moved in predictable patterns, it was chaos. Emma's targeting system locked onto a medium-sized Drask ship and fired. The gravity weapon did not shoot bullets. Instead, it created a localized problem in spacetime, a brief but intense warping that tore the Drask vessel in half. The living ship twisted like a dying animal before its internal fluids froze instantly in the vacuum. Confirmed kill, Emma reported. These things bleed. Keep hitting them. Ryan Foster brought the Phantom in from above the battle area, his ship's hull configured for maximum firepower. The destroyer was small compared to the larger Drask ships, but its weapons were much more powerful than its size suggested. Sophie, target that cluster of contacts bearing 090, he ordered. Targeting. Sir, they are grouping up. They are learning our tactics already. Then let us teach them something new. Fire plasma lances full spread. The Phantom released 6 superheated streams of magnetically contained plasma, each lance carrying enough energy to destroy a small moon. They struck the Drask cluster at the same time, and for a moment space itself seemed to catch fire. When the light faded, nothing remained but debris and frozen organic matter. On the Harbinger's bridge, Admiral Victoria Kane watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Ghost Fleet was designed for exactly this type of unusual warfare. Normal militaries worried about saving resources, about keeping forces alive for future battles. The Ghost Fleet had no such concerns. They were already dead. They could afford to fight with a recklessness that terrified their enemies. Commander Grant, status of the main weapon? She asked. Lucas checked his displays. 0-point energy core is at full charge. We have 1 shot, Admiral. After that, we will need 6 hours to recharge. 1 shot is all we need. Do you see that? Victoria pointed to a massive Drask vessel at the center of the swarm, easily 10 times the size of any other ship. That is the Hive Nexus. Take it out and the rest will lose coordination. Ma'am, we would need to get within 2,000 kilometers for an effective shot. We will be under heavy fire the entire approach. Then I suggest we move fast. All ships form up on the Harbinger. We are going for the Nexus. Escort wings clear us a path. What followed was a display of coordinated violence that the Veltharian forces would speak of for generations. The Ghost Fleet carved through the Drask swarm like a knife through water, their black ships weaving between enemy fire with speed that should not be possible for vessels their size. Emma's fighter wing engaged in a running battle with smaller Drask interceptors, her gravity weapon creating pockets of twisted space that sent enemy ships tumbling out of control. Sophie Martin's tactical predictions allowed the Phantom to position itself perfectly, hitting Drask vessels before they could bring their weapons around. The Harbinger took hit after hit, its shields flashing with each impact, but Victoria never changed from her course. On the bridge, damage reports poured in, but she ignored them all, her eyes fixed on the massive hive nexus growing larger on the view screen. 1,500 kilometers. Lucas counted down, weapon charging to firing level. 1,200 kilometers. Admiral, the hull is taking critical damage. I can see that, Commander. Keep us on course. 900 kilometers. Primary shields are gone. We are losing air on decks 7 through 12. Seal those sections. Continue approach. 600 kilometers. We are in range, Admiral. Fire. The zero-point energy weapon was humanity's darkest secret, a device that pulled energy from the quantum vacuum itself and directed it as a focused beam. When it fired, space itself seemed to scream. The beam struck the hive nexus dead center, and for a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive Drask vessel simply stopped existing, not destroyed, not blown up, but erased as if it had never been there at all. The weapon had broken its molecular bonds at the quantum level. Across the battlefield, the remaining Drask ships suddenly lost organization. Their movements became wild, uncoordinated. They were no longer a swarm, just individual creatures without direction. All ships open fire, Victoria ordered. Do not give them time to regroup. The Ghost Fleet fell upon the disorganized Drask with merciless efficiency. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. The swarm was broken. On the resolute dawn, Admiral Korath stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet, this Ghost Fleet that should not exist, had done in less than an hour what his entire armada could not do in weeks, and they had done it with a casualty rate that was almost suicidal by normal standards. 7 Ghost Fleet ships had been destroyed, but their crews had fought until their vessels literally came apart around them. Open a channel to the Harbinger, Korath ordered. Admiral Victoria Kane's image appeared. Her uniform burned and her face streaked with soot. Behind her, the bridge was a scene of controlled chaos with crew members working to contain fires and repair damage. Admiral Korath, she said, your escape corridors are secure. Get your civilians out. Admiral Kane, what you have done here, the galaxy needs to know. Humanity needs to be recognized for this. Victoria's face hardened. No, Admiral. The galaxy can never know. That is the price we paid for this power. We are ghosts, remember? We do not exist. And once this war is over, we will return to the shadows where we belong. But why? Why would humanity create something so powerful and then hide it? Victoria was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a tiredness that seemed to span lifetimes. Because power like this corrupts, Admiral. Because if the galaxy knew what we were capable of, they would either try to destroy us out of fear or use us for their own purposes. The Ghost Fleet exists to protect humanity and its allies, but we cannot do that if we become the monsters ourselves. She leaned forward. So here is how this works. You will report that your forces held the line until Confederation reinforcements arrived. You will say nothing about us. And in exchange, the next time you face a threat that could end everything, the next time your people are on the edge, you will put out the call. And the ghosts will come. Korath slowly nodded. A secret protector. An invisible guardian. A necessary evil, Victoria corrected. Now if you will excuse me, Admiral, I have a fleet to repair. Ghost Fleet out. As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Emma Cole guided her damaged fighter back toward the Harbinger. Through her cockpit window she could see the stars, and she wondered if her family somewhere below could see those same stars. They thought she was dead. They had mourned her years ago. The victory at the Veltharian defensive line bought the galaxy 3 weeks. 3 weeks for the Confederation to regroup, for the surviving alien fleets to come together, and for the Ghost Fleet to repair and resupply at Site Erebus. But intelligence reports painted a dark picture. The Drask were not retreating. They were adapting. Admiral Victoria Kane stood in the briefing room of the Harbinger, studying holographic displays of the latest Drask movements. Commander Lucas Grant stood beside her, his face troubled. They are spreading out, Lucas observed. Instead of gathering in one massive swarm, they are breaking into smaller groups, hitting multiple systems at the same time. They learned from what we did to their hive nexus, which means our gravity weapons and the zero-point cannon will not be as effective, Victoria said. We cannot be everywhere at once, and without a central coordination point, there is no single target to eliminate. There is something else. Lucas pulled up another display. We have been monitoring Drask communication patterns. They are biological, yes, but they are also using something we did not detect before. Quantum entanglement for instant coordination across huge distances. Even without the hive nexus, they are still connected. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Can we disrupt it? Maybe. Dr. Helen Turner in our research division has been working on a theoretical quantum jammer, but it has never been tested. And even if it works, we would need to deploy it deep in Drask-controlled space to have any real effect. That is a suicide mission? Yes, ma'am. It is. Victoria was silent for a long moment, then she straightened. Assemble a strike team. Volunteers only. We are going into the heart of darkness. 48 hours later, a small task force gathered in the darkness beyond the Kuiper Belt. 5 ships, 2 Wraith-class fighters, 1 Phantom destroyer, 1 Banshee-class frigate with the experimental quantum jammer, and the command ship, a modified stealth ship called the Spectre. Lieutenant Emma Cole piloted one of the fighters, with Lieutenant Ryan Foster commanding the Phantom. The mission commander was Captain Jake Morrison, a veteran of humanity's first contact war and one of the original Ghost Fleet volunteers. Listen up. Jake addressed the team over the comm. Our objective is simple. Get the quantum jammer to the Drask breeding worlds. Intelligence suggests they have 3 major hatchery systems in the Void Reach sector. We destroy those, we cripple their ability to reproduce and coordinate at the same time. Simple, he says. Ryan muttered over a private channel to Emma. Nothing about this is simple. Would you rather be back in stasis? Emma asked. Fair point. The task force activated their stealth systems and began the long journey into Drask territory. The stealth technology was another piece of Ghost Fleet innovation, a combination of adaptive camouflage and quantum field manipulation that made the ships nearly invisible to normal sensors. Nearly, but not completely. 6 days into the mission, they met their first Drask patrol. A cluster of medium-sized vessels drifted through an asteroid field, their living hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that might have been communication or simply idle thought. Hold position, Jake ordered. Do not power up weapons. Let them pass. The Ghost Fleet ships hung motionless in space, their crews barely breathing as the Drask vessels passed within a few hundred meters. One of the alien ships paused, its sensor parts twitching as if it sensed something wrong. Emma's hands hovered over her controls, ready to break stealth and attack if necessary. The seconds stretched into forever. Then the Drask vessel moved on, rejoining its group as they drifted deeper into the asteroid field. That was too close, Lieutenant Sophie Martin said from the Phantom's tactical station. It is going to get closer, Jake replied. We are still 3 days out from the target. The journey became a test of nerve. They met Drask patrols more and more often as they went deeper into enemy territory. Twice they had to hide among debris fields from recent battles, their ships powered down to minimum, relying on limited air recycling and emergency batteries. On the 8th day, they reached the Void Reach sector. What they found was worse than their worst fears. My God, Ryan whispered. The 3 hatchery worlds were not planets anymore. They were gigantic living structures, each one the size of a small moon, covered entirely in pulsating sacs and membranes. Millions upon millions of Drask larvae moved within, growing at a rate that should not be biologically possible. They are not just breeding, Dr. Helen Turner said from the Banshee. They are manufacturing. This is not natural reproduction. They have industrialized their own biology. How many? Jake asked. Helen ran the calculations. Based on growth rates and the size of those structures, they are producing roughly 50,000 mature Drask per day. Per world. The team absorbed that in horrified silence. At that rate, the Drask could replace their losses forever. No normal military force could stand against that kind of production capacity. Then we better make sure they do not get the chance, Jake said. Helen, begin deploying the quantum jammer. Everyone else form a defensive ring. Once we activate that device, every Drask in this system is going to know we are here. The Banshee moved slowly toward the center of the 3 hatchery worlds, positioning itself for maximum effect. The quantum jammer was a massive device, requiring the entire frigate's power output to function. Once activated, it would disrupt all quantum entanglement within a 100 light-year radius, cutting the Drask's communication network. Jammer in position. Helen reported. Starting activation sequence. We will have full effect in 90 seconds. Those 90 seconds became the longest of their lives. Alarms began sounding across the task force as Drask sensors detected the quantum disruption. Ships started moving toward their position from all directions. Here they come, Emma said, her fighter's weapons systems powering up. 500 contacts and climbing. Stay focused, Jake ordered. We just need to hold them off until the jammer reaches full power. The first wave of Drask ships hit them like a wall of water. Emma's fighter spun and weaved through a storm of bioplasma fire, her gravity weapon punching holes through enemy vessels. Ryan's destroyer took position above the Banshee, its defense systems creating a shield of protective fire. 30 seconds to full power, Helen announced. A massive Drask battleship came out from behind one of the hatchery worlds. Bigger than everything else in the system, it fired a massive beam of concentrated bioenergy that struck the Phantom's shield's dead center. Shields at 40%, Sophie shouted. We cannot take another hit like that. You will not have to, Jake said. His ship, the Spectre, broke stealth and sped directly at the battleship. Task Force, this is Morrison. Continue the mission. That is an order. Jake, no. Emma's voice cracked over the comm. You cannot. 10 seconds to full power, Helen interrupted. Jake's ship fired its main weapons as it closed with the battleship, not to destroy it but to get its attention. The Drask vessel turned its massive guns on the smaller ship, tracking it with terrifying precision. 5 seconds. It has been an honor flying with you all, Jake said calmly. Ghost Fleet does not end. We just change crews. Morrison out. The Spectre collided with the Drask battleship at full speed, exploding its antimatter core in a blast that destroyed both vessels. The shockwave scattered the Drask formation, buying precious moments. Quantum jammer at full power, Helen announced, her voice shaking. Activating now. The effect was instant and terrifying. Across the system, Drask ships suddenly lost organization. They drifted, confused, their coordination shattered. On the hatchery worlds, the larvae stopped growing, their accelerated development interrupted. But the effect went further than expected. The quantum disruption created a cascading failure in the Drask biological network. Ships began to shut down, their living systems unable to function without the quantum connection. The hatchery worlds themselves started to collapse, the larvae dying in huge numbers. It is working, Ryan said in disbelief. It is actually working. The entire system is going dark. But the jammer needs to stay active for at least an hour to make the effect permanent, Helen said. And we have got roughly 10,000 very angry Drask heading our way. Then we buy her an hour, Emma said. For Jake. For all the ghosts who came before us. We hold the line. The remaining 3 Ghost Fleet ships formed a triangle around the Banshee and prepared for the longest hour of their lives. They were outnumbered thousands to one, deep in enemy territory with no hope of help or escape. But they were the Ghost Fleet. They were already dead. And they were very, very good at killing. The battle for the Void Reach sector lasted 63 minutes. Emma's fighter was down to 30% power. Ryan's destroyer had lost half its systems, but they kept fighting. Every second counted. Every moment bought time for Helen's jammer to complete its work. And when it was finally over, when the last Drask ship drifted lifeless in the void, only 2 Ghost Fleet ships remained functional. The Phantom and Emma's fighter. The Banshee was gone. Dr. Helen Turner had sacrificed herself to ensure the mission succeeded, staying with her jammer until the very end. As Emma and Ryan limped back toward friendly space, they carried with them the knowledge that they had struck a blow the Drask would never recover from. The breeding worlds were dead. The quantum network was shattered. 6 days later, Lieutenant Emma Cole and Lieutenant Commander Ryan Foster returned to Site Erebus. 2 ships out of 5, 23 crew members out of 47. Admiral Victoria Kane stood in the hangar bay as they got off their damaged vessels, both moving with the exhaustion of people who had pushed far beyond their limits. Mission accomplished. Admiral, Emma reported, her voice rough. The Drask breeding worlds are destroyed. Their quantum network is offline. Intelligence estimates it will take them at least 50 years to recover if they ever do. Victoria stepped forward and did something she rarely did. She pulled both officers into a brief embrace. You did the impossible, again. Jake, Helen, and the others will be remembered. Privately, in the way ghosts remember their own, but remembered. Over the next 3 months, the tide of war turned. Without their breeding worlds and coordination network, the Drask swarm broke into scattered groups that could be picked off by normal forces. The Confederation, encouraged by the mysterious turn of events, pushed their advantage. The Veltharian Assembly took back their lost systems, and throughout it all whispers spread through the galaxy. Stories of black ships that appeared when all hope was lost. Tales of warriors who fought with inhuman fury, and then vanished without claiming credit or glory. The Ghost Fleet was becoming legend. In the diplomatic chambers of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Claire Morrison answered questions about humanity's involvement in the war's turning point. She answered with carefully crafted truths that revealed nothing. Humanity contributed what it could with its limited resources. We are pleased that our allies achieved victory, but in the shadows and encrypted communications and coded messages, those who knew the truth sent their thanks. The Veltharians, the Confederation, even species that had once been skeptical of humanity. They knew what had been done for them, even if they could never speak of it publicly. 6 months after the Void Reach operation, Site Erebus fell silent again. The Ghost Fleet returned to stasis, to the shadows, to the darkness between stars. Admiral Victoria Kane walked through the empty hangars one last time, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. "They will need us again someday," Commander Lucas Grant said beside her. "I know," Victoria replied. "Threats like the Drask do not just disappear. There will always be something worse waiting in the dark corners of the galaxy. And when it comes, when normal forces are not enough, we will be here waiting, ready." She paused at the observation window, looking out at the 40 ships that remained of the Ghost Fleet, their crews already entering stasis pods. "The price we pay is terrible. The secrecy, the isolation, the knowledge that we will never be thanked, never be recognized. But," Lucas prompted. Victoria smiled slightly. "But we are still here, still fighting, still protecting. And as long as the Ghost Fleet exists, as long as there are people willing to become ghosts, humanity will survive, no matter what the universe throws at us." Lieutenant Emma Cole stood in her stasis chamber, looking at the photograph of her family one last time. Her mother, her father, her younger brother. They had mourned her 5 years ago. They believed she died in a training accident. They had no idea she was still alive, fighting battles in the darkness to keep them safe. "I am sorry," she whispered to the photograph. "I am sorry I could not tell you. But this is what I chose. This is who I am now." She placed the photograph in a secure compartment and stepped into the stasis pod. The cold began to spread through her body as the systems activated. Her last thought before sleep took her was simple. She had made a difference. She had saved lives. And when the galaxy needed her again, she would wake up and fight once more. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Foster entered his stasis pod with Sophie Martin nearby, preparing her own chamber. They had fought together, survived together, lost friends together. The Ghost Fleet was their family now. "See you on the other side," Sophie said. "See you on the other side," Ryan replied. One by one, the members of the Ghost Fleet entered stasis. The lights in Site Erebus dimmed. The facility powered down to minimum levels. The only sounds were the hum of life support systems and the slow breathing of sleeping warriors. Admiral Victoria Kane was the last to enter stasis. She stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, looking out at the stars one final time. Somewhere out there, families slept peacefully. Children played without fear. Civilizations thrived without knowing how close they had come to extinction. "Commander Grant, seal the facility," she ordered. "Set the protocols to automatic monitoring, and hope we do not get woken up anytime soon." "Yes, ma'am," Lucas replied. "Sleep well, Admiral." "You too, Commander." Victoria entered her stasis chamber and closed her eyes. The cold spread through her, slowing her heartbeat, stopping her breath. She drifted into the deep sleep of stasis, joining her fleet in the darkness. As the massive doors of Site Erebus closed, as the lights went out and the station returned to its long sleep, a single message transmitted across secured channels. It reached the highest levels of human government and select alien allies who knew the truth. The message was simple. "The ghosts are sleeping. Do not wake them unless the world is ending. When you need legends, we will be here. When you need nightmares for your enemies, we will come. Until then, we are just stories in the dark, stories that saved the galaxy." On Earth, in a small house in a quiet neighborhood, Emma Cole's mother sat by a window looking up at the stars. She did this every night, had done it for 5 years since her daughter's death. She liked to think that Emma was up there somewhere, watching over them. She had no idea how right she was. Across the galaxy, in the halls of power and the depths of space, those who knew the truth slept a little easier, because somewhere in the darkness, hidden in an asteroid beyond the edge of human space, 40 ships waited. 40 ships crewed by the dead. 40 ships ready to rise again when the call came. The Veltharian people built a memorial on their homeworld. It showed abstract figures in black, warriors without faces or names. The inscription read simply, "To those who came when hope was lost. To the shadows that protect the light. To the friends we cannot name." Admiral Korath stood before that memorial on the anniversary of the battle that had saved his people. He knew the truth. He knew about the Ghost Fleet. And every year he came here to pay his respects to warriors he could never publicly acknowledge. "Thank you," he whispered to the memorial. "Thank you for saving us. Thank you for your sacrifice. I hope you are resting well. I hope you never have to wake again. But if the call comes, if the darkness returns, know that we will remember. We will always remember." The wind blew across the memorial plaza, carrying his words away. Somewhere far above, the stars shone brightly, and in the space between those stars, in the cold and the dark, the Ghost Fleet slept. But they did not dream. Ghosts never dream. They simply wait for the moment when they are needed again. They wait for the call that will bring them back to life, back to battle, back to the purpose that defines them. Because legends never truly die. They just wait for the next chapter of their story to begin. And when that chapter comes, when the galaxy faces another threat too terrible for normal forces to handle, the ghosts will rise again. They will fly their black ships into battle. They will fight with the fury of those who have nothing left to lose. They will protect the innocent and destroy the guilty. And when it is over, they will return to the shadows, leaving only whispers and legends in their wake. That is the promise of the Ghost Fleet. That is their burden and their honor. They are humanity's hidden blade, the weapon kept in reserve for the worst of times, the warriors who die twice so that others may live. And as long as threats exist in the universe, as long as evil waits in the dark corners of space, the Ghost Fleet will be there, sleeping but not gone, dead but not defeated, waiting for the moment when the galaxy needs them once more. The stars shine on, indifferent to the struggles below. But in the darkness between those stars, in a place that does not officially exist, 47 ships wait in silence. Their crews sleep the sleep of stasis, their hearts barely beating, their bodies preserved against time. They are the ghosts. They are the legends. They are humanity's final answer to the question, what happens when the monsters come? The answer is simple. We send bigger monsters, monsters of our own making, monsters who chose to become legends so that others could remain human. And that makes all the difference.